However, that night we reconciled, and when he told me he was going to the studio, I told him perhaps he should stay home and like hang out, but I didn't really push for it. I was just like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Well, I did see him tomorrow, just not the way me and him would expect. I'm on my Hamza shit today. Memento mori. What the fuck does that mean? It is Latin for remember that you have to die. Now, I know I read that a little weird, but the reason why I wanted to put some emphasis on have to is because a lot of us, especially people in between the ages of like 18 to probably like 35 or whatever the case may be, a lot of us think we're invincible. Newsflash, we're not. So today, I wanted to talk about death, and I wanted to talk about it in context as to how it should be a motivator for you. Hi, my name is Serge Roy, and welcome to Maison Noir, where we discuss self-improvement, fitness, dating, and relationships from the male perspective for men. Ladies, you're more than welcome to stay, but gentlemen, this is your home, so do me a favor, make sure you wipe your feet off at the door and hit that subscribe button for me. All right, enough chit-chat, let's get into it. All right, so why is death? First of all, death is one of my favorite topics, and the reason why I say death is one of my favorite topics is because it's very personal. I mean, it's personal for all of us. We're all gonna die, right? But it's personal for me in the sense that I've got to experience it at a very young age. My brother, DJ Jean, and I've spoken on this before if you've watched the video, My Story, or I think I titled it, Who is Serge? But anyway, you could watch that video for a little more context. But my middle brother, DJ Jean, he was shot and killed not too far from my home when I was 17. And you know, I had to go confirm the body along with my mother. So that day we went to go see the body after the detectives came to my house at like 6:30 in the morning. Like I said, if you want more context to the story, feel free to go watch the other video. After identifying the body, I had that image like ingrained in my brain. You know, from the perspective of a 17-year-old, seeing his own brother laying there, still completely dead. Like, obviously, completely dead. But literally, because I spoke to him the night prior, we had gotten into a little argument because during my fat years, I ate a sandwich. In fact, I'd always eat his food because I was a fat savage. However, that night we reconciled, and when he told me he was going to the studio, I told him perhaps he should stay home and like hang out, but I didn't really push for it. I was just like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Well, I did see him tomorrow, just not the way me and him would expect. When I seen that body, it changed my perspective on so many things. And now granted, even through the years and up until the point at which I faced my own suicidal tendencies and I shouldn't be saying that because that means that I just got demonetized if this ever does get monetized. As if that fucking matters. Anyway, when I faced my own suicidal tendencies and the one time when I almost took my own life, and I'll make a separate video on that too as well, because I think it's important to talk on those things. Like, I have that experience, and I'm not saying that I made it through to the other side, right? Like, what is the other side? We're all still trying to grow and not survive, but learn enough to make improvements in the next day. I want to be able to share that story to you guys to tell you that, you know, things can get better so long as you're willing to put in the work. But in regards to death, first of all, we don't know when we're gonna die. We have no idea when we're gonna die. You know, to assume that you can have an idea as to when you're gonna pass or to feel as though you're invincible is not only arrogant, but it's only a very myopic perspective because people die literally every day in various ages for various reasons. And although you might be in good health, you know, you might be financially well off, or even if that's not the case, you still have your health, right? Just assuming those two things alone, you can go outside and get hit by a bus. You can go outside and get shot. You can go to the side. If you live in New York, you can get accosted by a homeless person, right? And get into some bullshit and then get smoked. Funny story. I remember I was walking to my barber not too far from my home. When I was walking towards the barbershop, literally, and mind you, I'm in like a suburban area, right? So as I'm walking towards the barbershop, I'm like 100 feet away from the corner of the street, right where it meets the street itself. Would you believe that this old ass sports car, I think it was like a really old Corvette, you know, one of those like ragtop Corvettes from the 90s with the drop. This dude somehow makes a sharp turn from the block further down, sharp right turn, going full speed. I don't know how fast he's going. I'd have to say probably like 60 miles per hour maybe, on this small ass street, mind you. and he loses control. He somehow hydroplanes, jumps onto the sidewalk as I'm closing the distance between myself, the corner. Here's this car. And literally, this man crashes into the fence in front of me, careens onto the other side of the street, and then crashes into a tree. The guy was okay, but I was just thinking to myself, I was like, I was literally on my way to the barbershop. Like, I was walking to get my hair done, and I almost got smoked. So the question becomes, why are you wasting your time? Why are you living in the past? Why do you feel the need to constantly regurgitate and go over the things that have happened to you some time ago? And when I say you, honestly, I'm talking to myself, because I myself go through these things also. Sometimes people are like, they go to the gym to try and fight their demons or whatever the case may be. I go there to ingrain my demons into me, because what I've realized is the more I try to beat myself up about the past, the harder it becomes to let go. And the only way I feel I can move forward is if I accept what has happened. And now, how does death play into that? Well, simple, because time is finite. Do you want to spend your time thinking about the past, or do you want to gamble on what could be your future and plot that out thoroughly? Life is all about planning. And even when we plan, sometimes things go wrong. Like, I don't think my brother expected to get shot in the head that night, but he did. So with all that being said, the way I see it, and maybe you see it this way too, let me know in the comments, one should strive to become their best self through, regardless of the tribulation, regardless of the challenges, simply because the time that they have on earth is unknown to, first of all, the person and the people around them. Why waste the time? I just think in some regard, we all can learn from death, you know? I lost my second brother, Jerry, in 2019, right before COVID started. And right before COVID started, I was working, I guess you could say I was self-employed. Really, I was just a residential personal trainer. I was just going from residency to train some of my clients because I had left Equinox. Now, when he had passed away, I was with a client. I was at a gym. I was at a gym space that I was renting out for the time to work with my clients. And, you know, when his baby mama called me, I hate saying that, but it's the truth. His baby mama called me and she asked me, she was like, are you sitting down? And, you know, from the first brother passing away, like when the detectives came to my house at 6 a.m. and asked me to sit down in the living room, I already knew something was up. So I said, yes, I can sit down. So I sat down on this Swiss bowl, and here's me on the phone while she's, you know, telling me that my brother has gone into a car accident on the highway, and the man was literally thrown out of the fucking windshield, and obviously died on impact. So I had to make my way down to West Virginia. I had to identify that body too. And it was strange because when I went to go identify that body, this time it wasn't like I wasn't sad. In fact, it was kind of odd because I seen my brother's face and it looked like he was smiling. And I just sat there. I sat there with the body. I watched it. I made peace with his passing. But in some regards, I walked away from that moment feeling inspired because my brother had a lot of dreams. You know, he used to play football for a certain high school in Staten Island, and he almost got a scholarship, but he injured his knee. Then he fell in love. Then he had a kid. Guys, this is why it's super important to stay on task. It's so easy to like fall into fake love and end up having like that whole family trope, only to realize that it wasn't something you actually wanted. You're just caught up in the emotions. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day. So he had all of these opportunities, but he never took them. Because he gave himself additional responsibilities in which he didn't have to take on, if you ask me. But, you know, of course, men being men, they want to feel useful. So we apply ourselves to random ass shit. My argument here is apply yourself to the things that you really want to do, not to what the world tells you to do. But with all that being said, you know, he had a lot of plans, a lot of hopes, a lot of dreams. Before he passed away, we had a very interesting conversation. He told me two things. The first one, which I vehemently disagree with, he told me that you cannot plan to have children. Time out. First of all, let me know in the comments if you want me to talk about that too. But you can definitely plan to have children. In fact, that's probably the best way you should have kids. But the second one was, he said, when you hit your 30s, you have to start giving up on your goals and your dream. That was another thing I didn't agree with. And the reason why I didn't agree with that was simply because A, I'm hitting my 30s soon. And B, when I think about that phrase or that line, it sounds like one is just giving up, right? It sounds like you're dying before you die. So ultimately the question becomes, are you going to die now before you die? And what does that mean? To expound upon that, what that means is giving up on your dreams, becoming, and this is just from my perspective, so there's a little biased, at least this point, getting that 9-to-5 humdrum career job because people have told you to get a career because you need to be useful and contribute to society. And there are various ways to contribute to society. This right here is a contribution. So don't be limited or myopic in that way of thinking, but moving on. And the third one being, you become a beast of burden. Like you're nothing more than a familial ox. You go to work, you take care of the kids, you go home, and you repeat the cycle. My thing is, with World War III finna drop soon, shout out Call of Duty for giving me all the training that I need, just in case your boy get drafted. But with World War III finna drop soon, we've got America essentially from the way of like the social perspective completely collapsing in itself, right? Like people aren't dating each other anymore, and you know, we can go into that whole rabbit hole as well. But all I'm trying to say here is, with all the bullshit going on in your life, don't you want to take a chance on becoming something more than what you are right now? I mean, if you ask me, what else is there? Seriously, what else is there besides trying to become the best version of yourself, making a valuable contribution to society? And I don't mean by having kids. Literally anyone could have children. Let's stop like acting like this is like the paragon of human utility. Like, okay, you're literally here to procreate. That is your biological function. Can we think beyond that for a moment, please? You know, and it's like, don't you want to live that kind of life where you can change society in some sort of aspect as opposed to just giving up on your dreams and essentially dying before you die? I don't know. The motivation, at least for me, definitely is derived from death because I've seen it so close. And when I think about that, it's what I think to myself is, if I have the opportunity to be on a deathbed, I want to look back on my life and know that I did the things that I felt I wanted to do because I knew it was something within myself to help bring forth something in society. And B, I want to know that I lived the life that was useful and not just one of a drifting consumer. This isn't to judge anyone, but that's just not the vision I have for my life. And I don't know how long I have on this life, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know how long I have on this earth. That sounds better. But I do know I have this time right now, unless I were to just like drop dead. But see, even then, that's how real it is. And now think about that. Like ever since we've got these, you know, vaccines, I don't know if I could say that, but ever since we got these vaccines, and I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but isn't it just kind of interesting people are just dropping dead? But I don't know. With all things considered, I just know that my time is finite, and so is yours. So what are you gonna do with it? If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, leave a like, share, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments, like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve with your life? Leave that answer in the comments below. We've got some news in regards to our fitness programs, and I'm gonna start rolling out some more fitness content on the channel too. So I wanna say thank you so much for listening or watching, depending on whatever the fuck you did. Feel free to check out one of these videos here to continue watching, and if not, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.